Hello and welcome to the Camunda Question Corner number 15, where we answer questions about Camunda things. We of course are. I'm your host. I am in the background doing some karaoke, but not in the foreground. I'm Niall, Deehan, developer advocate with Camunda, and I'm of course joined by my co-host as always, which is in the background waving, Nele Ulhemann. Would you like to say hello, Nele?
Hi.
Good. And of course, our guest, our front and center, our number one person who's into karaoke in a big way. It is Philipp Fromme from the modeling team. Would you like to introduce yourself, Philipp?
Sure. My actual name is Philipp, so just remember that. I'm a front-end developer at Camunda. I'm mainly working on the Camunda Modeler, which is one of our products, and also on the BPM&IO project. I'm the second most senior member of the BPM&IO project in terms of how long I've been with the company. I started working for Camunda in 2016, and I'm one of the original creators of the one and only token simulation plugin for BPM.js and the Camunda Modeler, and also the infamous plugin that lets you resize tasks, which of course you shouldn't do.
Yes, thanks. Flip is all about breaking the rules. So while the modeler itself prevents you from resizing tasks, Flip decided to make a plugin to really stick it to the man and let you resize tasks. So today, you will be using Slido for your questions. The link is already in the chat. I think I might just post it one more time for new people who might have joined. And once you go there, you'll be able to see the existing questions. And if you want to, you can then add your own questions, of course. Just go there and add them and just send them along to us. And if you see a question that you like and you think is worth hearing the answer to, you can also just upvote an existing question. And because you lovely people have taken time out of your day to join us, your questions, the people who arrive live, are the most important to us. So we will tend to answer questions that are asked during this session with a little more prominence than those who've been asked in the last little while. So you do have that nice benefit. So now I will quickly show you two things, the procedure for the day and also token simulation for those who don't already know, which is one of my favorite plugins. So as you can see, what's going to happen is this is the model. I'm going to turn on token simulation. We are going to ask a question. If it's about anything in particular, myself and Nele will both in parallel attempt to answer it. There we go. And then we're done. If it is specifically about the modeler or BPM.js, then we'll send that to Flip and Flip will try and answer it. You can see here that Flip is a service task while both myself and Nele are not machines. We are people. Sorry about that, Flip. We also, of course, have taken the eventuality that somehow someone asks a question that we have no idea about. Have no fear. Once that happens, we will make up an answer. So you will get something probably. Okay, so and we will start with a poll, I think, just to find out who's out there and who's interested in seeing some giving us some feedback on the BPM. And our poll is, do you use the token simulation plugin that I just showed? Yes, I do. No, I don't. I didn't even know it existed. So there are your options. We got, hey, look at this. Token simulation is finding an audience now. This is good news. Okay, feel free to keep voting. We see we've, okay, nobody, and good. Okay, there's actually, honestly, there are fewer people using the token simulation than I would have assumed. I actually thought it was far more popular, but 20% is fine. You can find it, it's free to use. I will put a link in the chat soon enough, or if Flip has it handy, that's also good. But it's free to use, just easy to install. It's a really good starting point for plugins for Camunda, and I use it all the time to step through models. Okay, thank you very much for your voting. And now let's head straight to questions. Okay, so actually, this top question is voted very highly, and actually, I think this is best given to Nele, I think, since you've been working on this for a little while. You've done an example recently. So do you want to take this question? What are the best use cases for external and connectors while using service tasks?
well, maybe not the best use cases, but we can talk about the differences that exist with external and with connectors, because we get those questions a lot in the forum as well. And sometimes that's just my impression, but I feel sometimes people are using connectors because they are not aware of external tasks. So in general, if we implement a service task, if we use connectors, the benefit is that we don't have to implement ourselves a REST call because we have a wrapper around it that will make the REST call for us. But there are certain difficulties when it comes to connectors, because, for example, if you want then the response from your REST call and you want to parse it, you want to have one value from the JSON and put it into a string, this gets slightly more complicated, as well as, for example, creating BPMN errors and failure or incidents within the engine. On the other hand, if you use an external task, you you can use any coding language you like to, and then you have to implement the REST call in that coding language on your own. Well, maybe it seems to be it's a little bit more work to implement the REST call, but on the other hand, once you have that, it's way easier to handle the response that you get. That's my experience. And I can just basically share my screen, Niall, if you let me to.
I'll be very kind and do that, yeah.
So that's question corner, but here we have a project, and that's a connector. So what you would need to do here is, because you don't need to implement the logic of the REST call, but you have to configure the connector then. And of course, it's a REST call, so you define the method, the headers and the URL. And then that's basically what you have to do with the output parameters, that you have to define what you want to do. And in this case, it uses Spin as a library. So this is added to the POM file as well. So we can parse the JSON easier and then save here the value of the health percentage in this case. And this is how we would use it. In the end, one would think maybe, oh, I can do that without any big coding, but then sometimes if you want to throw, for example, errors and stuff like that, you still would need to include some scripts. So I did it here in the project as a listener. There are two. In this case, we could observe this one. If we don't have a status code that is a 200, we want to throw a new error, because in the script the error is not catched. That will create an incident within the engine. So it is kind of, you still need to have the script code somewhere, and then everything is not really together, but it's kind of separated in separate places. That's why I personally like external tasks a little bit better. And this project has here something in JavaScript written. And if you go to the JavaScript code, that's here in the project, I open it. Here, what we have to do basically is we have to create the REST call on our own. This uses the library or module fetch from JavaScript and performs the REST call or does the REST call. But then actually it's way easier for me to parse the response and deal with the response. For example, if I have a response that's not okay, I can then throw the error within my JavaScript code, and depending on what I want to do, in this case, I also want to create an incident. I can then catch here the error I throw, and here handle the failure to the engine that will create the incident. I found this a little bit more clearer and more under control what I'm doing, to have everything in one code. I don't know, Niall, is there something you like to add? Because you are also sometimes working with at least external tasks. I'm not sure how much you work with connectors.
I will give a very short answer. I hate connectors, and I would avoid using them at all costs. There's no good reason to use connectors unless you really love to make software you're going to need to replace in a year or two. So yes, please always use external tasks safely. Now, Philipp, is there a question here that you would like to answer?
Maybe the one on the top is quite easy to answer. So the short answer is yes, technically it works, because the token simulation is really just a plugin for the BPMN toolkit that is both embedded in the Camunda Modeler and also in Cawemo. The Camunda Modeler actually has a plugin mechanism, so you can actually, that's why there is a token simulation plugin for the Camunda Modeler. There's no such thing for Cawemo, as far as I know, you cannot include your own plugins at the moment. And so it's technically possible. The Cawemo team could throw it in there, but it's right now not a part of Cawemo. And I can't speak for the Cawemo team because, yeah, I've heard some rumors, but I don't want to speculate too much.
Okay, I would love to see it there. I think Cawemo has a lot of potential, a lot of rumors about what potential features might show up. So I would love to see it there. Let's hope it gets supported. Thanks, Philipp. I will answer this question quite quickly, the one that just came in. Do I recommend Camunda Cloud or Camunda Platform for a new project based on Kubernetes in the private cloud? That's a relatively misleading question, as if one works better than the other in terms of cloud performance. It's not entirely true. Camunda Cloud is a service that you don't need to worry about Kubernetes or your cloud at all. You would just basically just need to use it as a service you don't host. So the benefit is actually not needing to mess around with any of the setup. With Camunda Platform, using something privately or hosting it yourself, that's perfectly fine. And you can do that as well using Kubernetes. And we do, I think one of the community members, Suresh, I think he built a Kubernetes operator, as far as I recall, for Camunda Platform. So it's even easier. But the real difference is here. If you're starting a new project, the question might be a little higher level. In what cases would I use cloud? In which cases would I use platform? Generally speaking, I would say at a very high level, Camunda Cloud is great if you don't want to have to set anything up and you really expect a very high throughput of your processes, more than maybe 100 or 200 per second. That's kind of that's kind of how that works. Camunda Platform is perfectly good at running in the cloud. The difference is that there is an upper limit scale-wise, and that's around about maybe 300 instances per second. You can get it up to about 1,000 instances per second if you sacrifice a bunch of other stuff, but basically that's where you're at. The only way to really know for sure is to do a little proof of concept. So I would suggest you do that and try it out. Both are free to use as a trial version of Cloud, and Camunda Platform is open source. I would suggest find out which one is easier to get started with and use that. Okay, Nele, I'll throw to you. Any questions of consequence that you might want to look at?
Can you scroll down in the?
I sure can.
That's too fast, Niall. I don't want to take the modeler questions. That is modeler. Oh, there's one was transaction I saw, right?
This one here?
How do transaction boundaries look like? And how do transaction boundaries look in service task, I assume? Extending abstract BPM activity behavior, signal correlation attempt can happen before state is committed. Execution null. Okay, I hope I understand this correctly. I think there is a problem with the transaction boundaries because the state is not committed before the signal or the signal is thrown and the state is not committed yet. So that means that the signal, there's no reaction to the signal. In general, I would say it would not be about extending the BPMN activity behavior. It would be more like looking at your model and how you can change this probably so you can react to the signal. That would be my initial thought on this, because in general, that's right. If you have not committed your state as a transaction boundary within the engine, there's no way that that the signal would be catched if you throw it. I would solve that with a better BPMN model. Maybe event subprocesses can help to include event subprocess. So you have, this can listen all over the process, for example, as a non-interrupting signal, catching signal. You could act then based on that. Depends a little bit on the model and where you want to catch it, I would say.
Oh, thanks, Nele. I think you're right. I think this needs a lot of further research to find out what exactly the issue there is. There are a lot of possible solutions. Philipp, do you want to pick a question for us?
I'll just ask quickly answer the one on top, which is about is there the plan for a modeler for both the Camunda Platform and Camunda Cloud? We already have that. So if you go to the website and you download the latest version of the Camunda Modeler 4.8, it already is one single application that supports both Camunda Platform and Camunda Cloud. So the Zeebe modeler that you might have heard about, that project is actually deprecated. We're not working on that anymore. We're focusing on having one application that serves both platforms. So yeah, that's that. And maybe another question. Can you scroll a bit?
Yeah.
The one I found the most interesting is the one regarding using the BPMNIO tools to build other modelers for other domains. So
like this one here?
Yes.
Cool.
This is more concerned with BPMNIO and our open source activity. So the answer to that is yes. We do actually have quite a big ecosystem of libraries that all serve as building blocks for the products that we build in the end. So the Camunda Modeler is really just an accumulation of all of these things in the end. You do have a BPMN editor in there, you have a DMN editor, and you have a form editor now as well. And all of these are building, most of them are built on the same basic building blocks. And one of the main building blocks is actually a library called Diagram.js. So if you look at a BPMN diagram or a DRD in DMN, they actually look quite similar. They're both like diagrams with shapes and connections. And so what we do have is a general purpose library for this concern, which lets you build diagram editors that are based on that library. And then, for example, in BPMN.js, we basically just add the BPMN domain specific things on top of that. And we have a BPMN editor. In DMN.js, we do the same thing. We just add the DMN specific stuff on top. And so technically, you're absolutely able to build a UML editor based on it, because if you think about a UML class diagram or something like that, it's just another form of diagram, just a different domain. And you can use Diagram.js to build a UML editor if you are interested in that. I don't know if there's like if there is a UML editor out there that's actually working right now. I know from forum activity that people are working on those things. So people are asking questions on the forum, and I know that they are trying to build UML editors, for example. Yeah, I can't show you a working example right now, but it's technically possible, yes.
Oh, thanks a lot, Philipp. I will take that answered. I want to go down to a question that popped up just a few minutes ago, which is to explain what connectors are and what their use case. I would love to take this question. So connectors are a way in which it's a feature we created quite a long time ago. And the idea of it is you should be able to make a REST call to another service without needing to write any code. The way it works fundamentally is you go into your model, and I think as Nele showed earlier, you select your service task, you select connector, and then a tab shows up where you can enter in the parameters for REST call. You know, the method you want to use, some information about the headers, that sort of thing. And then what happens is the engine makes that REST call and returns an object of a response. It's actually really good. Why would it be used? Super good for prototyping, and really good for getting started very quickly if you want to quickly orchestrate loads of different systems using REST. The downside of them is actually not about how they work. They do actually work, or not about how they actually, how to build them. They're quite easy to build. The downside is later on, they have a lot of problems with performance. They use the engine's threads to make the calls, so that can kind of be quite blocking. They are pretty bad on security. It's hard to actually make them more secure or change certain or change the protocol in predefined ways. And also because the engine itself is a single threaded thing, like per process instance, there's only one thread touching the model at any time. If you wanted to do anything in multi-instance, like make multiple calls, it's very hard or dangerous, I would say. That's why I would tend to suggest starting with another option instead. But that's what they are. And they're, that example I posted earlier has an example of a connector in making a call to GitHub, so you can take a look at that. So I will take that off. Let's take a look. Nele, is there anything you would like to talk about quickly?
I saw something, well, maybe first, I see this one, the latest question, can you help on an issue starting a process? I think that's really hard to say now because we don't know the process.
Simon's issue, yeah.
It seems to have an issue with the database.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to answer those questions here because we don't know your setup, we don't know your process, we need more information. But I would encourage you to go to the forum and post it there with the additional information that are needed, because in the forum we are more likely to help you when we have the full setup. So sorry that we don't, or that we can't answer this in detail here.
There are a few possible things I would check. The first is that, do we support the version of MariaDB you're trying to connect to? I don't think we support the latest one, so maybe check that in the supported environments in the docs page. The second thing is that, have you changed the engine's version, and have you run the update scripts? Sometimes if you don't run the update scripts, you could have missing columns or missing tables. So that's probably the two most common issues. I would check those. If neither of those work, then as Niall said, go to the forum and give us some more detail about that. We'll try and answer there. So
you can answer quite quickly. Is there a roadmap for Camunda Platform? Yes, we do have a roadmap for Camunda Platform.
Yeah, we find that really helps when it comes to deciding what features to add. I actually don't know if it's if the roadmap, the public one, is up to date. I will have to check that. We very much do. We have a very long-term plan for a very vague but long-term plan for platform, and a very specific roadmap for the features in the next maybe 2 releases. Just to let you know. Usually we you can check that out by reading the blogs. The blogs Camunda has pretty detailed stuff, especially the alpha releases are a good way to know what exactly to expect. High level wise, the biggest thing we're going to be doing in the next couple of releases is all going to be about user tasks and user management, for new form builder and that sort of thing. So I will take that done. Philipp, would you like to answer a question?
Yeah, there's one about how to start with creating your own Camunda Modeler plugins.
Yeah,
I could just hint at some resources quickly. So we do have some documentation about that. I will post it in the chat. So the first link is some kind of walkthrough, the basics of creating a plugin, which is not terribly easy, unfortunately. I wish I could say it's like extremely easy to create your own plugin, but you have to have a bit of like JavaScript knowledge to create your own plugin. There are certain plugin points in the Camunda Modeler, so you can't just like create a plugin and change whatever you want in the Camunda. There are clearly defined plugin points. And one of the most used is creating plugins for the BPMN editor, which is, I think, the one that is the most frequently used, which is the one that's used by the token simulation, for example, or by the resize task plugin. So there's this documentation, and we also, if you want to have some inspiration or just like a starting point, see what an actual real life Camunda plugin looks like, We do have a repository with a list of plugins that already exist. There are some example plugins, which are very, very simple plugins, for example, for the BPMN editor. The token simulation plugin is in there, but there are other things like an autosave plugin and yeah. If you want to create your own plugin, I think these two are a good starting point.
I actually totally, the autosave plugin, I have it there. I love it to bits. There it is. It's so handy. It saves me so many times. It's a great plugin. It's not, now don't worry, Flip, it's still not nearly as good as token
It literally
simulation.
saves you so many times, I know.
How did I not see that pun? How did you see that and I didn't? But yeah, indeed, there are lots of plugins. Thanks for answering that, Flip. Nele, since somebody who's on the call has asked this question, I'll give this to you since this is a great one too.
I mean, I give it a different try. I think you explained it quite well. Connectors are executed in the thread of the engine, so you can imagine it as a wrapper around a Java delegate, and you would perform the REST call in the thread of the engine. You explained, Niall, already. We will have a certain amount of problems once we want to add additional security as well. For example, if we talk about performance, because we are within the thread of the engine, it is with a job executor, or it has to deal with a job executor as well. If we look at external tasks, that is a completely different concept. So if we have an external task, this task is written into a list, and then an external task worker can poll the engine. And once the work is available in that list, it can fetch and lock the task, and can execute the task and the logic and complete the task. That means it does not happen within the thread of the engine. That means also I can have run multiple external task workers in parallel, fetching for the same topic, for example, or for the same task type, and they are executing this. So this can be a really good thing if you want to scale your performance, if you have service tasks. And I think that's from the performance side, the differences. And I try to explain from the implementation side, kind of, if you have the connector, you don't code the REST call because it is already implemented. So if you use an external task worker, you have the external task client that takes over the communication between your worker and the workflow engine, but then you still would need to code your REST call within the external task client. That's from from the developer perspective, the difference. I also would always say go for external tasks, but I hope that was better now and clearer. Niall, something you like to add?
I have one additional thing I want to add to that, which is with a connector, the model and your REST call are intrinsically linked and versioned together. So if your REST call changes in any way, you need to redeploy a whole new model. With external tasks, you can change those, bring them down, do anything you want, and the process will actually stay completely untouched, and it's easier to keep things going with external tasks. So again, I'm a little biased. I don't really like using connectors because I've seen problems in the future. We do plan on trying to fix this. Don't worry, connectors are right now not a great idea, but we do plan on trying to make this a little better. We're not sure how yet, but we're talking about it internally. I want to really quickly knock some of these questions off before handing to Flip. Are there license restrictions in Zeebe running out of cloud? There is one very specific license restriction, which is you cannot put it in the cloud if you intend to sell Zeebe as a service. You basically cannot create Zeebe in the cloud. I think that's against the license. But you can you run Zeebe yourself if you like. That's not a problem at all. Yeah, as an engine that you intend to use yourself. That's not a problem at all. It's open source and you can host it yourself. That's no problem. In platform, able to run redundant. In Camunda Platform, is Camunda able to run in a redundant way? Or do I need? No, you can have Camunda Platform with lots of different redundancies. You can have multiple nodes and stuff. It's actually pretty stable and very, very good for clustered environments. We even have rolling updates in case you want to upgrade the engine in runtime with zero downtime. It's pretty decent, actually. And everything is database orientated. Zeebe has a better redundancy mechanism because it copies the data to different nodes and stuff like that. So it's a little different, And the Camunda platform does have a central point of failure, which is the database. If you don't back up your database, you will lose everything if the database explodes or whatever. So yeah, I would say there's a lot to think about. Okay, that's just those two. Great. I will pass it back to Philipp. Any questions you would like to answer?
There's one question about enterprise features of the Camunda Modeler.
Do you have enough time for this question?
Yes, the answer is that there are no enterprise features. So the Camunda Modeler doesn't have an enterprise version or anything. There might be certain plugins for the Camunda Modeler that are only available to enterprise customers, but the Camunda Modeler itself doesn't have that distinction built in. Maybe one more question.
Yep.
There was one about Excel sheets and DMN tables. I'm not super familiar.
This one here. Oh, from Aravind?
No, there's a question how to export DMN tables as Excel sheets. So there is a plugin that one of my colleagues has built, which allows you to take an Excel sheet and import that and create a DMN file from that, which will then have one decision table, which is the contents of the Excel sheet, basically. There's currently no way of exporting, like going the other way. And that would actually, I think, be a bit more complicated because imagine you have a DMN with multiple decision tables. You could say, okay, I'll just create an Excel file for all of these decision tables, but you have relationships between these certain dependencies, and I'm not sure how you would go about doing this. There's currently export is also working. Okay, yeah, Niklas is actually on the call. Good. Thanks for correcting me. So export seems to be working. I wasn't aware of that. So he just posted the link. So if you want to see how the export is working, then I would suggest you just check out that link.
Cool. That's what a wonderful coincidence that Niklas had to be here exactly.
I knew that Niklas was on a call, but I didn't want to bother him. But yeah, thanks for helping me out, Niklas.
This is great. This followed the process completely, Philipp. We have the right answer from. I didn't add the potential that someone from the panel would be told the answer from the audience, but there we go. We now have a new addition to the BeepMen model I need to make. Okay, well, I think we'll do maybe one or two more. Nele, do you want to take anything there that strikes your fancy?
I mean, this one question kind of is really popular now, the one that's upvoted. And
this guy.
I mean, I was not there when we start building Camunda Platform. So for me, it's hard to answer the decision about MyBatis. I would say it was there already, but Niall, I mean, I just see it gets a lot of votes. So I feel we should answer this or try to answer this. Have you been there when we started building Camunda Platform? I'm not sure. It's hard. I think you might also not be involved in this decision, right?
No one from Camunda was officially involved in this decision, I don't think, because this was a very fundamental decision made a long time ago. So I can tell you that MyBatis is the persistence layer on the engine that basically commits stuff to the database. And it is, I would say, slow is one of the main problems with it. It is very, very slow. And it could be faster. We actually did look into potentially changing it a few years ago. We looked into what it would take. And I think if we were to start again from scratch and we had nothing to deal with, and would we choose MyBatis again? Maybe not. We might have other options that are a little better. But at the moment, changing it out would be such a traumatic sort of refactor for the engine that it's not likely we would actually use another type of persistence framework, because for the benefit, it's not that big a benefit really. But I think, yeah, MyBatis is not the best option, I think, for Camunda in terms of performance, but it's also probably not worth the effort in removing it, I'm sorry to say. Hopefully that disappointing answer is good enough for you. we'll take, I think, one more question from Philipp, maybe, or maybe two, and we will then we'll go into the final slides. Anything there, Philipp, that strikes your fancy?
There are some questions that I could potentially answer, but so there's one about visual element template creation in Cawemo.
Oh yeah, where was that one?
So the question is, are there plans to support visual element template creation in Cawemo Enterprise for types other than RPA bridge and external service tasks? So since I'm not on the Cawemo team and I'm not their product manager, I cannot say whether what the future is going to look like.
Philipp, think of it this way: you can make promises now that they have to fulfill, so that you're off the hook. You can just say whatever you like, and then just it's the Cawemo team's problem.
There's going to be an AI-based assisted visual editor that just guesses what you're trying to do, and it just magically makes it happen.
Yeah, for the next release.
Have fun, Cawemo. No, there's actually, I think the visual editing is referring to, there's two views at an element template in Cawemo, and one is the JSON view, which is actually what the element template is in the end. And then there's some visual editor, which basically makes sure that you can create an element template without accidentally breaking it. So, and it just ensures that it works. And right now, this editor, as far as I know, is just tailored towards the RPA use case. Technically, they could build other like options that let you create templates in that kind of like visual way. Templates of other types as well, but I don't know whether that's going to be the case anytime soon.
I do really like the templating features. I would imagine that more will exist because they are quite popular. Like they're pretty cool, but I'm not sure what they would be exactly. Okay, I'm gonna just answer that last question there. Shakil asked about where to start if you are new to Camunda. I'm going to just drop a playlist of YouTube tutorials. There we go. Go have fun. If you have any questions, though, I would go to the forum. It's linked below, and then ask those questions there, and you should be able to. It's quite a quick getting started experience. So yeah, have fun. Now let's return to the slides for the last 5 minutes or so. First of all, yeah, there we go. A moment. Okay. So I want to talk about a very cool thing, which is CamundaCon. Our yearly conference is going to be on in September, which we're all really looking forward to. We've already got a huge amount of presentations already submitted, but we are always happy to have more community submitted presentations. If you are doing something that you think is interesting, you have a fun use case, just pop along to the CamundaCon website that I will try and find, and submit a paper. If you're not interested in submitting, have no fear. Just go ahead and you can register right now. So if you're interested in hearing about these use cases, seeing people who have coded very good. Someone's already posted that. That makes my life easier. So do register to come along. It's free and online. You can go and check it out, and you can hear about a lot of really cool use cases with Camunda. So please go ahead and do that. What else? Sign up for the developer newsletter, of course. All of the things we've talked about today, the plugins that are created, the various tutorials I put in there. We actually do a monthly newsletter where anything new for the developer community, you get sent there. So that will be things like new plugins that are cool, maybe some new resources for developers and that sort of thing. So it's definitely worth your time to go check that out and highlight things. So I would like to say, of course, thank you very much to my co-host Nele. Thanks very, very much, of course, to Philipp for taking time out of his busy schedule to be made fun of briefly and also to answer questions from you lovely people. And of course, thank you for joining and giving us questions. This would be a very lonely event were it not for the questions that we got from you. So thank you very, very much. Hopefully that you feel inspired now to go do some fun stuff with Camunda. With that said, we shall say goodbye. I'm sorry for the questions we couldn't get to, but do go to the forum if you want more detailed answers. This video will be up on YouTube along with all of the links that we talked about on Monday, in all likelihood. So if you're interested in reviewing this or reliving the fun, I'm sure Philipp will do that first thing Monday morning, then go along to our YouTube channel where we have all the previous question corners also uploaded there. So thank you very much once again, and we will see you at the next question corner. So cheery bye.